Network. I am Flannel Sam. We've got Terry Foster to my right, JB Smoove in the TD booth, and Brandon Kool-Aid Dent in the sound booth. And joining us, as always, on Thursdays, the one, the only, John the Doc Macaron. And unfortunately, I wish we were talking under better circumstances. I know the Lions won. They didn't win. They went to the NFC Championship game, which was a successful season, but they did end up losing, blowing a 17-point halftime lead. And we asked this to the audience. We got some callers. We got some people in the chat. But John, how have you been coping with that, with Sunday's loss?
Man, guys, thank you for having me. Terry, always good to see you. Everyone.
You
man,
too. Hey, big fella. I got bad news for you. I'm about to change your name. You Doc Mac now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Man, let me tell you something.
Oh, the Mac Doctor.
It was tough. It was tough. Like everybody else, I felt the hope in that first half when you saw the Lions dominate the 49ers, go into Levi Stadium and take care of business. Everybody was thinking, I started to picture Dan Campbell holding the Lombardi Trophy, Sheila Hemp celebrating in Las Vegas. And then what happened in the second half was a choke job of all ages. And when you look at it, nobody was able to stop the bleeding. Not the coaches, not any of the players on the Lions. And you recognize once the momentum shifted, it was gone. And just like that, in a span of 8 minutes, your 17-point lead is gone. And in a blink of an eye, the Lions were eliminated, and the hope and the dream of winning a Super Bowl was gone. And I think many people felt like the Lions, playing the way they did the first 30 minutes of that game, could win a Super Bowl. And when that hope was opened, I think that's what makes the feeling Monday and Tuesday and even Wednesday, that is something you don't get over, the way in which they lost. And so for me, yeah, the Ben Johnson news definitely helps to continue to fuel that hope in the future that this football team can compete and win something. But the reason why many people feel so down is you feel like you just blew a major opportunity right now this year to speed up your rebuild and win a championship right now in the here and now with this team that everybody grew to like. In the future, there's going to be 30% turnover. New guys are going to be coming in. So I think people feel really down because this football team was likable and was on the verge of greatness.
You know, I have a philosophy that if you're going to be a championship team, you have to have some pain somewhere in your suitcase. And I want to ask you, you know, after talking to players after this game, what was the piss-off level at from 0 to 10?
Oh, look, Terry, you look at it. When you look at the Detroit Lions franchise, Terry, let me be honest, let me ask you. Haven't we had enough pain? Haven't we suffered enough as a fan base? The last time the Lions in this position in 1991, they get their ass beat. So you have this large span before you get this great head coach in Dan Campbell. You recognize this football team has been down in the dumps, been really irrelevant. Now you get this season where you get 12 wins going into the postseason. You show your fan base 2 wins in the playoffs, and to lose like that where, look, guys, you were in it, you were competing, and Josh Reynolds, who's been sure-handed, chokes, drops the football. And you recognize, of course, no, the locker room, you could sense really, it was really down in the dumps, really sad. Like in a blink of an eye, all their hopes and dreams were gone. But you know who represents the piss on that football team, and it's great, is Penei Sewell. He's like, look, all that shit in the past is done. We move forward, and now they got that motivation. And look, they all said the right things about having hope, but they all knew. And guys, too, here's part of the reason why many people are freaking out a little bit and still nervous. Dan Campbell stood in front of the media and said, I told the guys this might be your only shot. Now, he did elaborate further and say, you know, I don't believe that, but life in the NFL is hard. It's an ever-changing football league, and when you have that opportunity and it's right there, you can't choke it away. And guys, if you give, like you guys always say, if you gave Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell some truth serum, I think they believed they could have won it this year with the schedule, low contracts, and the way in which some injuries shook out for other teams. They will tell you they felt they could win the Super Bowl this year.
But they'll be better in the future. But I understand what Dan Campbell was saying, because in 1991 or 92, whatever you want to call it, after I talked to Lion players then, specifically Robert Porcher, this is the first of many to come. And he was talking about at least NFC championship games, and he thought they were going to go to the Super Bowl, multiple ones. That's what they thought at that time. So I understand where Dan Campbell is coming from, but I think they're in a different situation now because these are young pups. They don't really know what's happening in the league yet. They will develop that. And you mentioned, hasn't the fan base gone through enough? You're right. They've gone through too much, but Penei Sewell hasn't gone through this with the Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson, maybe you could say he has because he lives here. But these players haven't gone through that pain and agony that the fan base is going to. But now they understand what the hell is going on here now, and I think that's going to help them down in the future. That's just me.
Oh, no doubt. They understand what it takes to win. And I think the message that Dan said for next year, he set the tone right away. He said it's going to take twice as much work. But Terry, you look at it, and here's where the advantage the Lions had this year. All the players had reasonable contracts. Now upcoming, you're going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown maybe making a significant amount of money. Penei Sewell getting a hefty raise. And the big number, Jared Goff. And look, yeah, I trust Brad Holmes will put together a roster knowing how these contracts all fit together. But you see, look, Brock Purdy is making $800K versus Jared Goff's $25 million. So you realize now when Jared Goff's salary doubles, that means you're going to have to let go of a player that was a fit in Jonah Jackson. So there's no guarantee that this thing rolls to the level of success that many people would have felt could have happened now. Look, the blessing and the hope moving forward, this football team should be in the postseason regularly. You're not going to have 30-year droughts. But what's really tough is, and what's hard to keep hope is, can this football team compete when there's a Patrick Mahomes, one of the legendary quarterbacks already out there? You get Joe Burrow in the AFC. You get Lamar Jackson, who also is tasting the sting and the wrath of the national media, calling him a bust and a fraud. So you realize how hard it is to get to the mountaintop. This year represented an opportunity to get there now, but for this football team, of course, the window's open. But in the NFL, it shuts real fast. But I have hope this football team's going to rebound, and that grit that they establish will help. But next year, guys, it's a first-place schedule. You're going to play the creme de la creme of the NFL. Let's see how they stack up.
That is right. And there is, everybody says, well, same old Lions is dead. No, it's not. There is one more hurdle for them to overcome. The same old Lions in 1990, they would win 11 games one year and then 5 the next. They went to the NFC Championship game and then stunk the next few years. So I think the last hurdle to officially get rid of same old Lions is for them to rebound with that first place schedule and don't win like 5 or 6 games, something stupid like that. They can't do that. That's the last.
Who's going to be in his second year, and I think he's going to dominate the NFL. You get Jamison Williams, who Sam even now likes and respects. That's a huge hurdle for J-Mo to cross. If Sam Flannel is now saying nice things, my goodness. And then you get Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think is going to be one of the beneficiaries of Ben Johnson coming back. This football team will compete. It's going to be a grinded-out season. You're going to play a lot of good teams on the road, but this is what you want. This year you didn't play the toughest schedule, but next year you played the creme de la creme, and I think that will also help this football team maybe even secure, I think, the biggest goal. I think Dan Campbell's got to shine that goal right away from day one. If this football team can get the number 1 seed and play every game at Ford Field, that place has been now established as a place that other teams don't want to come. And I think that it'll give the fan base and this football team a realistic shot to get back there and get to New Orleans next year.
Oh yeah, and I think I appreciate the talk that we've had so far. I think it's a good, on one hand, autopsy of the season, but also there's a lot of hope. But I have to ask the ultimate question. It is something that I am still wrestling with because obviously it's been less than a week out. is this season ultimately going to be looked back upon, the 2023 season, as the greatest season in Lions history, or like at least in the Super Bowl era up to this point, like a massive success or a missed opportunity?
No, it's a massive success because you look at it, and Dan Campbell has put the Detroit Lions back on the map. We're talking, all throughout in the past, we would talk about the draft in January, and now we got to talk about a football team that was in the postseason and playing the elites of the game. And you recognize this football team has been built the right way in the trenches. You got dogs at different positions on the offensive line and defensive line. You guys saw the photo of Aiden Hutchinson and Penei Sewell walking off the field. Those two guys battling every week only made each other better. You got a great wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who represents the grit and the hardworking attitude of this city. And Jared Goff, the ultimate comeback kid. I think that this year was a welcome back to the NFL season for the Lions. And guys, look, even Dan Campbell gained some experience coaching in the big time moment. Look, we can debate his decisions, and that's all great. But for Dan Campbell, if you look at the leader of the team, he got to coach against Kyle Shanahan, match wits, see what it's like when the fire is the hottest. And yeah, the team came up short in the second half, and it was a total collapse. But if it happens again and the Lions are back in the NFC Championship game, all those experiences that they just got will be worth it. And I think Dan Campbell is one of the easiest coaches to back. And I think that one day Dan Campbell is going to hoist the Lombardi Trophy for the fan base to celebrate. The formula's there, the right mix is there, and this season, yes, it's going to hurt. You'll never forget the pain of being that close to greatness. But when you look back, when the time comes and the Lions win it all, it'll actually make it that much better.
All right, here's a big question for you. Dan Campbell said that he does not regret passing up that field goal that could have tied the game. Do you believe him?
No, I don't. No, I do not. You look at it. I think in the biggest moments, Terry, you look at it. It's tough. There's split-second decisions. I looked at it and took time to kind of think about it. Yeah, you have your instant reactions, but I look at it. 2 of the 3 decisions that he made, I think he would switch. And he said it. He said, you know what? I don't regret anything. And yeah, he's always going to stand by his decisions. But he said, you know what? If you really want to make an argument, he said, I think I'm going to second guess the second quarter decision to kick the field goal. The man's been aggressive. You're at the 2-yard line. Punch it in. Score the touchdown. The one that I'm okay with is the Josh Reynolds 4th and 2. No problems there. You're early in the third quarter. You expect a good play call and execution. Josh Reynolds choked and dropped the football. The one that is killer that you recognize, my goodness, you got to tie the game. If you recognize the defense and the situation that you're in, your defense is not going to be something that you trust to stop the 49ers. So you tie the game with less than 8 minutes left, and if they score a touchdown, you still have a chance. If you don't execute, and what did the 49ers do? They brought pressure and made Jared Goff run, which is the worst thing possible. I think you look at it and you say it was a complete collapse from the top down, and when he looks at it and he goes, my goodness, all we had to do was kick the field goal and hope to give a chance to tie the game and have an opportunity to get the football back one more time. You got to give yourself options. You got to give yourself a little bit of leeway. And I understand your belief that if you go there and you have the football still, that's what you like to do. But in the end, no, I'm sure he's kicking himself for the 2nd down, 4th down decision and the one at the end of the game. No doubt about it.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it. That 4th and 3 when they had a chance to tie the game, at least with the one where they were up 24-10, the Josh Reynolds drop, the play should have worked. Josh Reynolds just dropped it. I would have kicked the field goal there, but at least with that one, you say Josh Reynolds just choked. If he would have not choked, their Lions are probably in the Super Bowl. And Hoof Hearted says something in the chat that I actually disagree with, and I think we have to mention this. Each season is a missed opportunity for 31 of the 32 teams. Well, there are levels to this because 31 out of the 32 teams don't have 17-point leads at halftime in the NFC Championship game. And that to me is why even though there is a lot of things to look forward to, the Lions are definitely set up for future success. They showed that they could play with pretty much any team in the NFL. I would argue that in the first half of the game against the 49ers, they were as good as any team in the NFL. That team wins a Super Bowl. But that being said, the second half happened, and it was still a missed opportunity. So is this something, and I hate to bring this up, but it has to be done because they lost. Is this a loss that could haunt the franchise, at least until they win again, until they actually win one?
Okay, real fast, hoof-hearted. Look, there's something these fans do that really bothers me. I don't give two shits what other teams in the NFL do. Half of the general managers are stupid, don't know what they're doing. Half of the head coaches don't understand analytics. Half of the coaches don't understand the importance of having a quarterback. So what the other teams do means jack shit. It doesn't mean anything. What you have to look at is what this football team is trying to accomplish. And in 3 years, they were able to get to the postseason and to be within 30 minutes of the Super Bowl. Now it's great. Now you're in the position where everybody knows what you're about. You got the whole league talking about your physicality, about your players, about your roster. We're not talking about silly things like curses and nonsense and things like that. We're talking about X's and O's and decisions and roster construction and contract allocation. We're talking about real football issues. And yeah, it's a missed opportunity, but at the same time, if there was different leadership in place, I would be much more nervous. Now I'm getting fired up because I trust that Brad Holmes is going to bring in 5 new dudes in the draft that are going to compete and develop. I like what the second and third year guys are going to accomplish. They're going to develop. You got a quarterback that's got a level head on his shoulders. Yeah, he's got weaknesses, but he's got enough talent and wherewithal and experience to help you get back to the promised land. Before, there would be no hope. You'd be like, okay, this football team could fall off the map. Next year, I think, is going to be exciting because not only does Dan Campbell have so much motivation to get back there, but the schedule is going to force this football team to execute and practice at a high level. You're going to be playing the 49ers, the Rams, the Cowboys, the Texans, who are all going to be looking to kick your ass. So I think that Dan Campbell, with the coaching staff that he's going to put together, is no way going to be satisfied with what they just did. They can't be. Dan Campbell is a guy that if he has a level of success, he's going to be looking to move forward. He's the right guy. You got the right general manager. And I never look to what other teams in the league are doing because half of them don't have a clue in order to how to build a football team. This football team looks like they're doing everything right, and now we get an opportunity to see how they break down a good football team and what kind of tweaks are they going to make.
Yeah, I guess I would ask the question, is it a missed opportunity if you have no shot of ever competing for a championship? Is it a missed opportunity if you leave training camp knowing you have no shot? That's not a missed opportunity. You're just an also-ran.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like, of course, when it comes to, there's teams that you knew from the beginning, teams that ended up with like 4, 3, 5 wins. There's, like I said, there's levels to this. With the Lions, I think it actually was a missed opportunity because most teams don't have 17-point leads in the NFC Championship game. The Lions themselves, whether they get back, whether they win it, whether they don't, they'll probably never have a 17-point NFC Championship halftime lead. So for all the positive that we want to take away, it is still a missed opportunity, which is why I think we're going to look back at this season as a massive success and a missed opportunity. To me, it's the extreme version of both. Does that make sense?
Total sense. And,
Yep.
and you know
John,
what?
yep.
Really, that is the proper answer. It's a missed opportunity and a successful season. But I go back to whichever way you swing, successful season or missed opportunity, it's an individual thing. We all think differently. We all view this team differently. So we're going to have people on both sides of the equation. One other thing, young man, the 2024 season, the Lions are good. We have to pay attention to them from day one. They could kick our ass if we're not careful. Even this year, we all here in Detroit thought they were going to be good, but I still heard around the league, I keep hearing the Lions are going to be good, but I want to see it. Next year, you're not going to get any of that. You're going to get from day one, okay, these guys are good. We got to bring our A game, and I think teams will bring their A game against the Lions. Just like now and then the Lions bring their A game or brought their A game against teams. That's why over the course of the years, we would say, damn, how did the Lions beat Dallas in Dallas? How did the Lions do this or do that? It's because they got up for certain games, and the Lions won games they shouldn't have won. There's going to be times in the next few years where we're going to see maybe a team like Carolina or the Bears, whoever it might be, who's going to beat the Lions, and we're going to be, whoa, where'd that come from? That's because these teams are in where the Lions used to be, and they're going to raise their game up to a different level.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. We would always say in the past with the Lions, be cautiously optimistic. Now we can kind of take away that cautiously. Be optimistic. Have faith in your football team. And you also, too, have to give credit to the 49ers. Ayuk, Purdy, Bosa, they made plays, and they raised their level. The Lions obviously have a lot of inexperience in those key moments. And obviously, when you look at it, playing on the road, once the momentum swung, it just became a tidal wave where it was a complete collapse from coaching all the way down to the roster. And it's tough because you were right there. But I think the more you talk about it, the more you can smile that this football team is going to create a lot more memories. And look, and the good thing, too, is these guys are all going to get paid. They're going to be happy. And I think that what Dan Campbell said is tried and true. They're going to create more competition in that locker room. They're going to find more dogs to get out there and bring the thing home. And my goodness, could you imagine? Look, it's not too bad to party in Vegas, but if you get to party in New Orleans, that's just as fun. And I think this football team has a good enough chance to get down there and celebrate and have a good time. Hey, Terry, me and you will go down there in New Orleans. I'll load up on the beads, and we'll have a good time in New Orleans next year.
All right, and don't be a bitch. You better do some shots, too.
Oh, Terry, I ain't no bitch, man. You ain't going to let this bitch walk. I'll be okay.
I hear you.
Hey, referencing one of the most legendary moments in Valenian Foster history, to go back to old time. Nice drop there, John. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the positive spin that you put on it at the end, and always good to talk to you. Always feel better about the Lions, and even on weeks where they lose, I always feel better after chopping it up with you and, of course, everybody in here. So thank you so much, John. Enjoy the first part of the offseason. You have earned it.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. Those extra 3 weeks were tough. Thank you guys for having me. I love talking football. Let's do it again real soon. T-Foss, Flannel, the voice of TikTok, JB, and the man covering the Pistons, Kool-Aid. Y'all are killing it. Let's go.
Thank you, bro. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.